Have you ever stopped to think about where the internet actually lives? Not the Wi-Fi in your house, and not your laptop, and not your phone, but the actual internet. Every Google search, every YouTube video, every Netflix stream, every WhatsApp message, every online purchase, every AI prompt, all of it ultimately relies on one thing: data centers. And here's the funny part. Most people use data centers every day, but very few people can actually explain what it is. So today, let's fix this. Because once you understand what a data center actually is, you'll start seeing them as one of the most important pieces of infrastructure in modern history. So let's answer the question: what is a data center? Now, in order to do that, let's start with a few definitions. Now, a data center is commonly defined as a facility used to house computer systems and associate components such as telecoms and storage systems. Another definition describes a data center as a physical location used to house critical applications and data. And another defines a data center as a facility that centralizes an organization's IT operations and equipment. Now, if you listen carefully to those definitions, you'll notice something interesting. None of them mention size, not once. They don't say a data center has to be a giant warehouse. They don't say it needs thousands of servers. They don't even say it has to occupy an entire building. And that's because the size of a data center isn't what makes it a data center. Its purpose does. A small business might have a server room with a few racks supporting its operations. A university may operate a larger facility supporting thousands of students and staff. And companies like Google and Microsoft and Amazon and Meta operate massive hyperscale facilities containing tens of thousands of servers. All of them are data centers. The difference isn't size. The difference is application. What the data center is being used for, in other words. That application influences its size and power requirements and cooling requirements, redundancy requirements, and overall complexity. So when someone asks, how big is a data center? The answer is, how big does it need to be to perform its mission? Now, here's where I think many people get confused. So when people hear the term data center, they often think about terms like generators and batteries and UPS systems and cooling plants and air conditioning and fire suppression and security systems. All while those things are incredibly important, they're not actually the reason the data center exists. So let me explain that. At its core, a data center exists to perform three primary functions: compute, that's processing information, running applications, executing workloads; storage, keeping data safe and accessible, databases and files, photos, videos and backups; and networking. That is, moving information between systems, users and applications. And that's it. That's the mission: compute, storage, networking. Everything else exists to support that mission. So think about it. Why does a data center need electrical systems? Because compute equipment needs power. Why does it need backup generators? Because compute equipment needs power even during outages. Why does it need cooling systems? Because compute equipment generates heat. Why does it need security? To protect the equipment. Why does it need fire suppression? To protect the equipment. Why does it need a building? To provide a controlled environment for their equipment. In other words, these systems are not the mission. They support the mission. So think of a hospital. The reason a hospital exists is to provide healthcare, doctors, nurses, medical equipment, patients. That's the mission. The electrical systems and the air conditioning and the backup generators and the security systems and even the plumbing are all critical. But they're there to support the mission. A data center works exactly the same way. The mission is compute and storage and networking, and everything else exists to support the mission. So most people imagine something futuristic, a giant room full of blinking lights, or engineers dramatically typing on keyboards, maybe a few movie-style countdown timers. The reality is much less exciting. Most data centers are essentially organized rooms filled with racks. And inside those racks you'll find servers for compute and storage systems for data and network equipment for connectivity. And that's the heart of the data center. Everything else is supporting infrastructure. Let me say that again. Everything else is supporting infrastructure. Although to be fair, some of the supporting infrastructure can be pretty impressive. I've seen generators larger than some people's houses. So why should you care? Because almost every digital service you use depends on them. When you watch YouTube, a data center is involved. When you send an email, a data center is involved. When you use cloud storage, a data center is involved. When you ask an AI system a question, yeah, you've guessed it, a data center is involved. So in many ways, data centers have become the factories of the digital age. Except instead of manufacturing physical products, they process and store and move information. So what is a data center? It isn't a generator. It isn't a UPS. It isn't a cooling plant. It isn't a battery room. It isn't even a room full of servers. A data center is an environment specifically designed to allow compute and storage and networking systems to operate reliably and continuously. And that's why the data centers run the internet. Because every website and application and cloud service and streaming platform and AI system ultimately depends on those three functions: compute, storage, networking. Everything else exists to support that mission. And the next time you stream a movie or upload a photo, make an online purchase or ask an AI a question, remember, somewhere inside a building you've probably never seen, a data center is helping make it happen. So if you are interested in learning more about data centers and networking and cloud infrastructure and the technology that powers the world, consider subscribing, and trust me, we're only scratching the surface. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Oh, you are still here? Well, have I not mentioned that there is a free download accessible in the description below that you can go and have a look at, that talks about everything that we have described here? Well, go and download it, people.